Hi, my name is Umberto Mucci and this is We the ItaliaNews, a podcast about Italy during coronavirus times. Today is Monday, September 6, 2021. As of today, 62.1% of the Italian population is fully vaccinated, considering only the over 12s targeted by the vaccination campaign. 71.7% of the Italians are fully vaccinated. Regarding the doses administered in relation to the population, the regions with the highest rates continues to be Molise, Lombardy, Puglia, Abruzzo and Lazio. Those with the lower rates instead continues to be Sicily, Calabria, Trentino Alto Adige, Valle d'Aosta and Campania. As every Monday, just a few numbers about the situation of the contagion in Italy over the past 7 days. With regard of the new positive cases, we averaged a percentage change of minus 9.7% compared with the previous 7 days. In the same period, the average change in the number of patients admitted to ordinary wards was plus 2%. With regard to intensive care units, instead, in the last 7 days, the average change was plus 9%. On average, in the last 7 days, we had 60 deaths a day, with a variation of plus 23.4% compared to the previous 7 days. The infection index continues to fall in Italy and arrives below the symbolic threshold of 1%. It is a trend that has been confirmed for a month now. Sicily remains the only region in the yellow zone, but there are 16 regions classified at moderate risk, 7 more than last week than when there were 10, although none is classified with high risk. Sardinia, Tuscany, Umbria and Valle d'Aosta are the regions at low risk. As mentioned in the previous video, the head of the Italian government, Mario Draghi, said that Italy is moving towards mandatory vaccination. His statement has sparked a political debate in the country between those in favor and those against. Among the first in favor seems to be also the President of the Republic, Sergio Mattarella, who yesterday said that invoking the freedom not to vaccinate is actually a request for permission to endanger the health and lives of others. One poll says that out of 100 Italians, 64% are for imposing mandatory vaccines on everyone, another 17% are for imposing them only on certain categories. 78% are for mandatory green passes to have access to public and private places and services. Also for this reason, the Italian government is considering raising the threshold of Italians over 12 vaccinated to 90% as a goal by the end of the year, increasing it from the 80% that will be reached at the end of the month. If this target is not reached, then mandatory vaccination may be used in 2022. Among the alternative options on the study is the possibility of making the vaccine mandatory for other certain categories after that of health professionals where it is already in force, from law enforcement to the rest of government employees. Another option could be to provide the obligation only for the over 50, the category most at risk. In any case, the advent of compulsory vaccination could also help the path to the third dose that will surely be administered to fragile people as early as October, and then to the over 80 and also to health workers, the first to be vaccinated since last January. But it is not excluded that later the rest of the population will have to receive the third dose. The reason is to try to manage the epidemic without too many repercussions on the Italian hospital system, while the hypothesis of completely eradicating the virus is now considered a mission impossible. The most plausible scenario, if the vaccine shield continues to work, is in fact to go from a pandemic to an endemic that will allow us to live with the virus. And this has been understood best of all by young Italians. After the 1st of July, when over 4.5 million Italians have been vaccinated, the 20-year-olds in percentage have now exceeded the 30 and even 40-year-old. It is vaccinated, at least with a dose, 75% of those who have between 20 and 29 years against 70% of 30-39 years old and 73% of 40-49 years. And the 12-19 years old who happily went to receive at least the first injection of the vaccine are 59%, 2.7 million, with a curve of adhesions more than any other in constant growth. This number clearly shows the sense of responsibility of young Italians who, despite the morbidity rate and therefore a danger of death very much lower than those who are older than them, as soon as they can vaccinate in much higher percentage to regain spaces of freedom and safety. The data show that it is in particular the introduction of the mandatory green pass to have convinced them, showing the foresight of the Italian government that has decided in this direction. This is an extraordinary lesson that Italian youth and adolescents are giving to Italian adults, among whom there are still 3.7 million over 50 who have not received a single dose. Those who have the least to lose in the event of a contagion are giving a good example and teaching how to behave to the Italian adults, and luckily the young ones are the future of our country. As I told you, Sicily is the only region in the yellow zone, and it is also the one where the percentage of vaccinated people is lowest. That's why it was great to see how the doctors with vaccines were welcomed at the Ballarò market in Palermo, one of the most beautiful and famous symbolic places of the city. In the video, which has gone viral, you can see the doctors invading the narrow streets crammed with zucchini, grapes and bananas, between rows of stalls where vendors display the wares while shouting amused that it's time to get vaccinated. Many of them had been described as no-vax because many, partly out of laziness, partly because they live in a neighborhood or market from which they never leave, because they apparently cannot take time away from the stands. And so the doctors went to them and were triumphantly welcomed. A beautiful message for all Sicilians who live in an extraordinarily beautiful and complicated land, to whom a big hug goes here from Rome. The Paralympics are over at the end of this truly incredible summer for Italian sport. Paralympic Italy has won 69 medals. It is the most successful Italy ever, a triumph that goes beyond sporting success, because something is changing around these fantastic female and male athletes who overcome records and difficulties and from whom we have so much to learn. Often there are extraordinary stories between these successes, and Italy is finally getting to know and appreciate them and is learning from these great Italians, courageous athletes. These are messages that reach the heart of a country that has survived a pandemic that is not over yet, a country that must understand that going through the last 18 months has certainly been difficult for those of us who are lucky enough not to have serious disabilities, but for those who are disabled it has been even more complicated and serious. And they will never get out of their disability, unlike what we hope soon will happen to all of us with the pandemic. Now, the last effort is missing. Italy must do as the United States and equalize the money awarded for these successes to those of the Olympics of other athletes, because at the moment Paralympic successes lead to an economic prize that is half of that recognized for able-bodied athletes, and this is certainly not good. Italian sponsors are understanding the importance of rewarding our disabled champions of great talent and courage. Now we expect, better, we demand that the institutions will do the same. And in the moment of triumph, we joined the many Paralympic athletes who took the stage earning a medal, in remembering that without the terrible accident that forced him in a hospital bed, hopefully not forever, in Tokyo we would have certainly won a few more medals thanks to Alex Zanardi, who has been and will always be the mentor of Italian Paralympic athletes. A grateful thought goes out to him and to all these extraordinary Italians. It's all for now, it's all for today. My name is Umberto Mucci. This was We the ItaliaNews. I'll see you next Thursday. Ciao from Rome.